Diary of a Sociopathic Mother-in-Law Next Door entry. Today's date is Monday the 8th of September 2025, and it's now been 2.5 weeks since the husk ran away from home, like a child running away from home because they're just looking for attention, because they're not getting enough attention at home. And in some cases there won't be, but not when you're 74. You might be growing up. So 2.5 weeks. She's been home again. She's been again today for 5 minutes. Pick something up, I'm guessing. But again, whatever time this was, 1 o'clock in the afternoon, when she knows the beacon is at work, all you need to do is come at 6 o'clock at night, husk. Knock on the door. I've said this on here so many times. That's what a fully functioning adult parent would do. So anyway, I think I said on here, I went into the lair. All of her clothes are still in her wardrobe, so she hasn't moved out. There's nothing about the place that looks like it's been tidied and moved out of. She's dumped her guilt and shame onto her daughter, like what all good narcissists do. She's put all of the weight and responsibility on her daughter. Yeah, got something to tell you, but you're going to have to run round after me. I'm not running round after you. Just let us know when you're ready. Not running round after you. I'm not coming to your house, knocking on your door and putting any actual effort in to come to see you and tell you what the news is. That clearly affects your life. I'm not doing that. Yeah, you have it all. She's dumped her shame and guilt and responsibilities, which is obviously a fallacy. You can't do that. You can't dump your responsibilities onto someone else. And then she's run away from home like a child. I'm not coming home until you give us what I want. Please come home, husk. Please, we'll miss you. We just want you home safe and sound. Please come home. We'll do anything to get you back. Please, can I make this appeal to anybody? If anybody is out there has seen my beautiful husk, she was last seen wearing a really old, wrinkly, brown shell of a human. Please, any information will be rewarded. Please come home, husk. Pathetic. So, she's been home again today, picked something up, but no, I'll do it when my daughter's out. So, this is just a silent treatment. Now the beacon is obviously, well, she's not giving her silent treatment. She just doesn't want to speak to her because she is hurt and angry. That's not silent treatment. On the other hand, what has the beacon done to the husk? Nothing. But she's given her the huge, massive, silent treatment. She knows she can't do that while she's living in the property, because she's bumped into her regularly and see her regularly, and she wouldn't be able to even she couldn't keep that act up. She knows in order for her narrative to prevail, i.e. I never had a chance to speak to you, she has to do this, give her a massive silent treatment by moving out. Well, the only reason I haven't told you is because you never give me an opportunity. That's why she's moved out. So those natural opportunities never present themselves. She's a pathetic child. Absolutely pathetic infant. And I just wonder what yarn she's spun for the ATM. She's been there for 2.5 weeks now. What is she telling him? Has she moved in his mind? Has she told him, yeah, I love you now? I just need a chance to speak to the beacon. Because she clearly hasn't moved out. It's like she's not going to give us the satisfaction. That's what she said. She's not going to make it easy by just moving out. Do the hard way. Who knows what's going on inside their relationship. One thing's for sure, it'll be a lie. Of that I'm absolutely sure. No doubt I'll be the scapegoat. She's not going to scapegoat her daughter yet. She's going to say, it's all the boogeyman. I can't go back there. He bullies us. I tell you, bully. If I was the abusive one and the bully, I wouldn't be letting you go. I'd be hoovering you up. I'd be love bombing you, gaslighting you, and hoovering you back up. Am I doing that? No, I'm not. Because you're the abuser. You're the bully. And like all good narcissists that just project, she calls me what I call her. That's all she does. That's the only way she's ever, it's the only argument she's ever give, just throwing back what I say to her. But I back mine up with actual data and information and rationale, understanding of what these words mean and what actions qualify to use these words. Actions speak louder than words. She just repeats it back to us. It's honestly like having a conversation with a child, because that's what she is. So I've been doing a bit more digging into this dysfunctional dynamic, and everything's coming a lot more clear. So the original dysfunctional family that I've married into was obviously the husk, the knob father, and then eventually along came the beacon, and then roadkill. Now, firstly, you don't become a narcissist in adult life. So let's just say she was about, 25, 26, whatever, when 50, she must have been 25, maybe 24, when she had the beacon. You don't become a narcissist in your adult life. You become a narcissist in your infant life, and then you go through adolescence and you don't actually learn and develop anything during your adolescence. Your adolescence, the in-between of going from a child to an adult, the development, you don't learn anything, you don't grow during that period. You're stuck in infantile consciousness, mentality, because of your traumas and your abuse that you've suffered, that you're a victim of, and the neglect from your parents and whatever other caregivers were in your life. You went through that during infancy, and by the time you got to adolescence, you were locked in. Your personality was locked in. You had already completely buried the true self because of your guilt and shame due to the abusive relationship you were in within your family dynamics. Neglect is abuse. Emotional, mental, psychological abuse. It doesn't have to be physical. So you go through adolescence and you learn nothing happens. So you just go through adolescence as if you were a child. You come out the other side, a child. And you haven't learned to grow. You haven't developed. Your brain hasn't fully developed. It's not firing on all cylinders. It's only firing at the lower ego reptilian brain level, and the only emotions that exist down there are things like guilt, shame, anger, pride, dysfunctional pride, so much pride that you think you're so much better than everybody else and that you deserve things without earning, because they haven't earned anything in their life in terms of development. You haven't developed a healthy sense of self because you've locked the self away forever, and you've created what the brain has done, the mind has done. It's a protection mechanism. It's actually quite magical in a way. Obviously it does cause huge amounts of harm to other people. But it's a magical self-protection. Locks that self away because it's too traumatic to deal with the guilt and shame. It could lead to things like suicide, self-harm, self-destructive behaviours. I mean, it probably will anyway. But you know what I'm saying? That's where those extreme negative thoughts come, at the very bottom of the consciousness scale, very, very bottom of the emotional ladder. Guilt and shame. So ashamed that you wish you weren't here, that you wish I had never been born. Parents have the power to do that to a child, and they don't. Most of them are completely ignorant. I'd love to know how many children have said that at some point in their life. I certainly have. I would be suicidal if I found out my daughter thought that at any point in her life. So, that inner child is locked away forever, and a fake persona is created, and it's the mind's way or the ego's way of creating a persona to trick the self into believing that this is them, and they are full of pride, they are full of self-importance, they are perfect, they are amazing, they are so good, they'll never ever 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 get anything wrong. They are shameless, they'll never have to feel shame, they'll never get anything wrong, so they'll never have to feel guilt. It's obviously a delusion, and that's what the ego is capable of. The ego is capable of deluding the mind. So you can see why it's there. It's there for self-preservation. It's there to ultimately protect the ego. It's the ego which gives you your survival instincts. So this fake persona, or the husk, the true self is locked away, lost in a black hole inside, behind a husk. The husk is the fake persona, and the ego has convinced you that it's really you, or convinced them that it's really them. Now, because the ego has created it, it is just ego. It does not have any of the higher mind thinking abilities, creativity, love, compassion, empathy. That doesn't come from your ego. So all that's left is this ego husk. that's full of grandiose self-importance, self-entitlement, cruel, callous. It doesn't experience the higher emotions of life, doesn't love itself. It's buried itself. It doesn't love anybody else. It is pure selfishness, right? That doesn't happen when you're an adult. It happens during childhood. So, no adult becomes a narcissist. Yeah, we all show traits. Arrogance. Occasionally people might get something wrong, be a bit selfish, might be having a bad day. We're all capable, we're all on some sort of spectrum. These are proper disorders though. Narcissist, cluster B personality disorders, fully diagnosable. So it doesn't happen in an adult. No healthy adult becomes a narcissist. So when she first got with the not father and had decided to have a family, she was already a narcissist, right? You don't become one in adulthood. She's always been one. In terms of, at some point during her childhood, she became one, and it stuck. So along comes the not father. So what is he? Well, he has to be an enabler. Every narcissist has an enabler. The flying monkey. Now, he was totally weak-minded as well. Total meek man. A bit fake. I don't think he had real love for his daughter at the beginning. When there was the family, when they kind of went their separate ways, you don't let your daughter go unless you don't love them. And it wasn't a biggie. It was a huge thing for us to have it acknowledged that wicked stepmother was in the wrong, and they wouldn't acknowledge it. But it wasn't. It's huge implications. It's a moral issue. It's the difference between right and wrong. And if we don't get that acknowledgement, recognition, and apology, then there is no respect, and you don't. No relationship can actually survive on, without respect and without understanding of actual objective morality. So anyway, he was a weak person. I don't believe that he loved his daughter at the beginning. And it's much easier to get your head around this when you understand how the dysfunctional family dynamics work. The parents don't love each other. Obviously the narcissist doesn't love the not father. She's a narcissist. The husk. And because the not father is an enabler, then he is toxic as well. It's still a toxic level of consciousness. If he's attracted to a narcissist, then there must be something familiar about their spirit or their soul, and that familiarity comes from his family. So, generally speaking, you're attracted to what you're familiar with. If you had a really loving, caring, compassionate, supporting, nurturing upbringing, both parents functioning properly, then you'd be you wouldn't be attracted to somebody from a dysfunctional family who's dead Larry and full of drama and chaos, never a calm moment in their life. So he is still a toxic person because he's the abused. That's what the enabler is, the abused. In the abuser-victim cycle that narcissists live in. So the victim is still part of that toxic cycle until they get out. But interestingly, when he got out, I thought he was very subservient to her family as well, who were clearly dysfunctional, and her mother was clearly a narcissist, and her dad was clearly an enabler. And he was very subservient. That's what enablers are, very subservient. They're used to it. They're used to being victims. He's meek, he's weak, he's got no willpower, no morality. So anyway, when he got out of that relationship now, we don't know what the truth is. It depends whose story you listen to. I would imagine they're both lies. Can't imagine either telling the truth. So, according to the Husk, he had an affair with his secretary, and that's who the wicked stepmother is. According to the Nobfather, he met her in Phoenix at Christmas time, and she banged into him carrying a Christmas tree, like in some sort of Hollywood love rom-com, knocking somebody's head off with a Christmas tree as you're walking around the shop. What a load of bullshit! These people think we're stupid because they're infantile. That's the sort of stuff you used to say to other kids, and you just expect they would believe it when you were a kid. So, whatever the circumstances, maybe he did have an affair. Because at the end of the day, when you're trapped in the lower self, or the ego self, toxic consciousness, the only thing that you have are things in the material world that make you feel better, and you can quite often, you have no morals and no will, so you can't say no to an attractive woman. So I could quite well imagine that is true, but it doesn't mean I believe it, because I believe nothing that comes out of her mouth. So what's interesting though, we've said, the Beacon and I have said for a long time now that stepmother is definitely a narcissist. So here you go. The Nobfather leaves one narcissist, gets with another narcissist. So does that not provide as good anecdotal evidence to prove my point?
Are you still on the Great North Run?
No. Somehow that was funny. God, put us off my train of thought now. Daft bats. Yeah, so doesn't that provide a good little anecdote to support what I'm saying? That when you come out of a dysfunctional family, probably with a narcissist at the head, you become an enabler, because that's what you're used to. And you become attracted to a narcissist in your romantic relationships because it's familiar. You're used to being an abuser. Give, take, give, take, give, take. You're the giver. You're the enabler. You're the give, 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 give. And then you leave that one and you jump straight into bed with another narcissist. Isn't that strange? And I think he just got out because I think he would have seen a nasty side. But it takes a lot of self-respect and a lot of courage to get out. So maybe he did have a slight awakening and then it's gone back to business as usual once he's getting out. So the beacon is definitely the scapegoat. That's where all the shame and trauma, guilt, baggage, worthlessness, that's where it's all dumped on the sacrificial scapegoat known as the beacon. And then she can run off and take all of that shame and guilt away to never be seen again. But the problem is, Husk, it never works. It always comes back to you, doesn't it? It doesn't matter how much you offload onto your daughter, it always comes back to you because you are rooted in guilt and shame. Your ego cannot destroy that because it's in there and it needs to be dealt with in order to actually move on. So, scapegoat, she's always walking on eggshells. She's always feeling, her words, I feel like I'm always being tested, because you are. Your loyalty is being tested. You're being broken like a horse to bring you under control. She doesn't want you to be a wild, natural, growing, evolving, expanding consciousness that you are. She doesn't want you to be that. She wants you to be broken. She wants your will to be broken because hers is broken. It is a test. And that's what she's always done. Gas gets her in the cycle of abuse. A phase of being nice, like the love bombing phase. Period of being nice. And then devaluation. Just being cruel, callous, saying horrible things and dressing it up as a joke. Having little digs here and there. And just sometimes just being overtly cruel. Devaluation, so there's the love bombing, being nice. Devaluation, just being cruel and callous and cold, slowly breaking the person. What's the third stage? It's the stage like where they give you the silent treatment. Just cause tension, I suppose. Forgetting what it's called. Discard. So it's called silent treatment. Discard. The silent treatment, it makes you feel like you've been just tossed to one side. It makes you feel shame. It makes you feel low and worthless. That's how they want you to feel. They want you to feel that. So you come back running. And that makes them feel better. It gives them a sense of power, control. So they discard you. I mean, they're not actually discarding you. Well, they want you back, but they want to make you feel like you've been discarded. And then, when you do come running back, it's the hoovering, it's the gaslighting. When you're trying to resolve what's just happened, and you're trying to stand up for yourself, and you're just shot down with gaslighting, lies, manipulation, disguised as love. Oh, I was only doing that because I care about you. I was only doing it because I love you. well, I wouldn't have done that if you had done that. It's your fault. It's your fault that I cheated on you. So that cycle goes on and on and on until eventually, at the hoovering part, you have no will. You don't even try and stand up for yourself. You just go back. There is no need to hoover. So that's definitely the beacon's relationship with the husk. Roadkill is the golden child, spoilt. But that's a form of abuse and neglect as well, because nobody wants spoilt milk. Nobody wants a spoilt child. Nobody would accept something spoilt. So why would you accept a spoilt child? That's neglect. That child should have been given the chance to grow, mature, develop, grow, and evolve into a proper, fully functioning human, having amazing experiences. But no, they've been completely spoilt, and there's a good probability that they'll turn into a narcissist, but they'll certainly be the enabler, because the switch from the enabler, I'll quite happily switch from, victim to abuser, depending on what the circumstances are, because that's the cycle that they're used to seeing, the dynamic, and they'll play either role. So roadkill is unfortunately the golden child, in my eyes. And the reason that the beacon, I'm still exploring why the beacon has survived this and didn't break. And I can only imagine the scapegoat being given the scapegoat role. It means she's been the most distant from the centre, from the black sun of the narcissistic universe, family universe, dysfunctional dynamic, the black hole at the centre that everything revolves around and gets sucked into. She's been the furthest away. That's where the scapegoat is, always on the boundaries, doesn't get any of the attention, doesn't get any fake love and affection, any rewards, nothing like that. It's just there to be the scapegoat or the surrogate parent. It's another role that the scapegoat might take on, and she's definitely took that role on in that dysfunctional family. She still is the surrogate parent. So I can see that. So she's on the outskirts, she's on the borders, and when you have that vantage point, when you have that perspective, you can see the big picture. And I think she's just survived because of that, and hopefully she was, has always had that divine spark in her to survive the sort of abusive, dysfunctional family she's been brought up in.